Hello, I'm the Renegade Gamer, and this is this is a discussion on Nier. Now, Nier is a 2010 game that came out um, roughly about 7 years ago, and I've owned this game for a few years now. I've owned this game for roughly I think I got my PS3 in 2013 or 2014, one of those 2 years, and Nier was bought sometime during that time. I didn't ever play it though. I just it was just sitting there. I was like, I want to play it, but I got other things I want to get through first, so I didn't really go through it, and I didn't know anything about it. But Nier, after playing it, and I just like I said, I finished it. I went through A and B scenarios, and I know what happens in C and D. And I'll get to why I didn't replay the game 2 more times. But, or at least once more and then split it. That'll be later, though. Okay, so, Nier is the story of a father trying to save his daughter, no matter what. I can really resonate with that. I am a father. I have a daughter. And I know what it's like to try to do everything you can to make sure that that your child has a better life than you do. So these kind of stories always resonate with me quite well. The Last of Us did it very well. The Walking Dead, Telltale's Walking Dead did it very well. So, and Nier does this quite well as well. Although the story is completely told from the father's point of view, and you don't get as much interaction with Yona as I would have liked. But I do understand the plight, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So where do you start here? Nier, of course, has been lambasted, beaten the shit out of over the years for graphics on delivery. I admit freely that I think that the character, the father, or Nier, if that's what you want to call him, does look pretty bad as far as his face. However, most of the characters in the game, I think, aren't that bad looking. They do have a little bit of a doll-like look to them in some shape, form, or fashion. But for the most part, the model work, I think, is actually not that bad. I just think Nier looks rough. As far as the graphics go, which I don't like talking about graphics that often, I thought the graphics were okay. They served. They were serviceable, which, to me, that's fine. I don't need the best in the world, okay? The big highlights of this game, a lot of people mention, is, of course, the story and the music. I will get to the story last, but music is what I want to bring up here. I have heard for years that Nier's music is near perfection. Sorry, couldn't help it. I really liked the music in this game. I thought it was very well done. I liked the lyrics that were sung. I also liked the fact that Devila, who sings all the music in the game, the character, I like the fact that whenever you she would be in the tavern, right? And you'd hear the song as you were running around on the map. But when you came close to the tavern, you started being able to hear the lyrics to it. And then when you moved away from the tavern, the lyrics would fade out. I don't know. There was something about that I really liked. It was just a small touch in the game, in the way that the game was designed, that I liked that. But a lot of music I thought was very epic, or just very soothing. Some of it very somber. There was no real piece of the game I didn't think the music didn't fit. Even the junkyard, I thought the music fit pretty well. Probably the only area I could think of musically that I wouldn't even say it was a misstep. It was just kind of weird. Would have been the forest, but even that wasn't that bad. So I don't know. Musically wise, very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I've been listening to it quite a bit here lately too. So I have a lot of songs tapped up in my head here. One of the things I find interesting about Nier, though, is that it's compared to Zelda, Resident Evil, God, there's so many comparisons. Old space shooters. You know, I find it interesting that a game like this can handle all that stuff that I just mentioned and actually functions pretty well. I mean, there's a part here, it looks like it's from the old Gauntlet games, where you're running through, you're on the top-down perspective, and you can see like multiple rooms, and you're going through it, and I don't know, there's something about it. I like that it changed up its formula quite a bit. You know, you're in the mansion, everything's got the old style Resident Evil camera going on for it. You know, it was a cool thing. I liked. What I didn't like in this game was fishing. Fishing can go fuck itself. I was annoyed to no end by the fishing, and I got to the point, I was like, once I caught the fucking fish, the only fish that you're required to catch, I never touched fishing again. I was like, I'm not doing it. I'd come across quests that were required to fish. I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing them. I'm moving on with my life. I don't want to ever touch this fucking fishing game again. And yeah, so I didn't. I may have missed out on some story bits here and there if I did that. I don't know. But yeah, so I didn't bother with the fishing. But a lot of the other little side quests, I did find that there was little small stories attached to them. They weren't big. Most of them were fetch quests, but there was a couple here and there that were interesting. There was one where there was a shade in town, and you were having to go. You were talking to the little girl. She'd tell you to go check out these places, and it turned out that she was trying to keep the shade from getting killed. But the question was, that it just rose in my mind is why, and it's never really addressed. You know, and I wish it would have been, because it would have been interesting. Yeah, there is a few short ones here and there that are fairly interesting, or at least mildly interesting. But most of the side quests in the game are, not really that great. But I mean, it's fine. I mean, the rewards for all of them is basically money or seeds. For planning, but most of the time it's just money. Upgrading. Now, anybody that's watched this channel knows that I'm a big proponent for customization of your equipment. That has not changed. I'm still a big proponent for customization of your equipment. I like customization of my equipment. Nier does this pretty well, except it still has the same fucking problem that most RPGs have. An insanely low drop rate. And unfortunately, to get a lot of the equipment you needed, there's only one area in the game that you could farm for it, and that would be, of course, the robot place, the junkyard. I got sick and tired of running through that entire fucking dungeon trying to find all the parts I needed to upgrade with. I finally got to a certain point. I upgraded, like, I think it was like maybe 6 weapons up to level 4. And I said, fuck it, I'm done. I don't feel like fighting. I don't feel like going out there and killing a shitload more robots trying to find the parts I need. I'll work with what I got. My point is that the drop rate is a little low here, as far as the rare drop rate is low. Regular drop rate's fine. I mean, we get medicinal herbs and everything else under the sun on a regular basis, but I would have preferred the rare drop rate to be brought up just a little bit. I don't know, maybe like 10%, you know, instead of, I'm not sure what the drop rate is actually. I would guess probably about 5% as a rare. Maybe 10%, you know, something a little bit more sustainable. Fast travel was done pretty decently. Riding the boar was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that quite a bit. The fact that you could ride your boar and basically drift with your boar was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that quite a bit. The boss fights in this game are really, really fun. I enjoyed every one of the boss fights. Even when I was getting frustrated, I was roaring ready to go try to get back in there and try to finish him. Finish the boss fight. Because even though I was, you know, sometimes it was just bullshit I ran across, I was still having fun with it. I was still enjoying the fight. So, boss fights were done very well. I liked killing all these big giant monsters, shades. I even liked fighting the ones that were basically just in the field, you know, the big giant shades that just appear and, you know, kick your ass if you were not careful with how you took them on. They were a lot of fun to fight. Just had a lot of fun here with a lot of combat. Combat itself, I found, was not terrible. It was actually not too bad. Your short swords were decent. Spears had a nice lunge attack to it, which I overused once I figured that out. My second playthrough, I basically used just a pair of daggers until I had to use the broadsword. The broadsword, the biggest problem, of course, is that it's slow as shit, the swing. And I only used it against armored enemies, and then after that, I would just toss it out and go back to using short swords or a spear. So, eh. Magic was awesome. Grimlore Vice's magic was awesome. Dark Hand, Dark Lance, the Dark Shot, they were all really useful. I enjoyed all of them that I could use. There were a few that I didn't find useful. The Dark Wall I didn't find useful at all. But they were a lot of fun to play around with. They were a lot of fun to use during mid-battle. They were a lot of fun just to use in general. I had a lot of fun with the magic. I thought that was done very well. I guess that's about it as far as gameplay elements I can think of. So let's get into some spoiler stuff and a few other things. Alright, so, spoilers. Last chance. Okay, so spoilers. You're playing Nier through the entirety of the game, trying to save your daughter, and trying to figure out what the Black Sprawl is, and how to counteract that. And you go from town to town, and you know, you find out what's going on there, you solve their issue, and you pick up 2 party members. Well, technically 3 if you're counting Vice. You pick up 3 party members, and, you know, they join your team. And I liked all the party members. I thought Kaine was an interesting character, especially during the second playthrough, because it elaborated a lot more on her. Emil, I actually didn't know I was going to like as much as I did. When you first meet him in the mansion, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's a kid. And maybe we're not going to deal with this kid that long. But I actually ended up really, really liking Emil. I thought he was a really cool character. I liked his design. For those who played this game, you know what I'm talking about. I liked his design. I liked his magic that he would use. Vice I thought was hilarious through the entirety of the game. I thought I loved how sarcastic and he would quote he would make things, and his basically bickering and bitching about anything that was going on or you were trying to do. I always liked his little quips, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So there are a few things here I didn't really care for, though. I'm going to bring one up here right now. The forest area. Now, I don't mind text-based adventures, but it was a really weird change of pace that we suddenly got into this text-based adventure that was based on a dream that was given to you because of words, and so the entire screen became nothing but words, and you had to sit there and read for a long time. About 30 minutes worth of paragraphs of what was going on, and then answer a few riddles. The riddles were fun. I liked understanding the riddles. I'm just saying that it was a little bit too long. It stretched itself out a little bit too long for my taste. I don't mind reading in a game. I don't. I love RPGs, so you're going to have to read an RPG. But I felt that was taken out a lot longer than it should have. And when I got to the second half of the game, when I found out I had to go around basically to the old towns again, the first place I hit was the fucking forest because I wanted to get that shit over with ASAP. Got that over with, and I breezed through the rest of the game because I didn't want to deal with it that area anymore than I had to. But the other thing I didn't care for was, which is funny because I do find them interesting. I find the Man in the Mask area, or sorry, the Masked Tribes town. I found their town very interesting. The fact that they live by the rules and die by the rules pretty much was an interesting thing. What I didn't like about it was the design of the town. It was built like a freaking maze, trying to get around in there. And then of course you have to take the forced tour basically so you can get so you can buy weaponry or items or anything else there. I just didn't like it. I thought I got the point what they were doing, and I enjoyed that part of it, but it felt like it went on too long, the tour. But and I was just sitting there, I was like, this is so dumb. Your rules are dumb. And but that being said, I thought I would just not like the Masked Tribe. But in all honesty, I actually ended up really feeling for them and really enjoying their culture that they had, and I liked the Masked Tribe quite a bit. The robot people were not that interesting as I thought they would be. In fact, that area was just kind of there. So I don't really have a lot to say about it for the first part. The second part I may have more. And the Avery people can go fuck themselves. I hate it going into that area. It's a cool design having a town built into the side of a cliff, but I hated transversing that area, and I could not stand the idiocracy and the fucking arrogance of a lot of the people in the area. They wouldn't even come out of their house. I mean, shit. And of course, the seafront was pretty awesome. A bit of a maze to find when you first get there, but once you figure it out, it's actually pretty cool. So yeah, so the first areas you go through, like I mentioned, I don't know if I've listed them all. I liked them. The second time you go through all the areas is a lot. To me, is a lot more interesting. The only one you're not required to go to again is Seafront. The area is kind of short. The forest is mercifully short. Of course, the Men in the Mask, that's actually pretty short too, now that I think about it. It's only the robot one that takes a while to get through. I have to think about it. The second half of the game is pretty damn short. But it was a lot of fun to just transverse through there, try to get it through as much as you can in all the areas. And I enjoyed going back to a lot of the same places we went to, and seeing how things had changed in the 5 years that had passed. So that was fun. I enjoyed it. So we finally get to the end of the game, and we're going to save Yona. We have freed Kaine. We freed Kaine. We basically gotten all the puzzle pieces we need, and we go to the temple to try to save our daughter. And then we run across the two people that have been helping us the entirety of the game, Devila and Popala. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing here? I don't know what your game is, because I knew there was something up with them. The last lines they say to you before you leave, it's pretty much telegraphing it out there that there's something there, but you don't know what it is yet. And I'm just sitting there, I was like, well, okay, I get you. Y'all are here for something. I don't know why the fuck you're here. And so we find out something that I had already suspected throughout the course of the game. And we find out that all the shades that you've been killing were actually humans. The souls of the humans, pretty much, I guess. It was something I already suspected throughout the game. And the only reason I can say that is very simple. Anytime you killed the shade, there was usually they would drop stuff sometimes, like an old school book or stuff like that. And you'd always hear a small noise afterwards that sounded like like a sped up voice. That you couldn't quite make out, but it sounded like a sped up human voice. And like I said, it was something I'd suspected that's what the shades were. And so we got to that point, and they explained the situation that was going on. It's basically everybody is in this room, with the exception of them two, because they're androids. Nobody's human. Everybody's a replicant. Basically built as a shell for the spirits to go into at a certain time. And that you yourself, Nier, or the Father, is the one that's supposed to be for the Shadow Lord and the original replicant. It was an interesting turn of events. Like I said, it was something I suspected for a while about the shades being that. I didn't suspect that you were not human. But it did raise a few other things that in my mind that came up. Basically that, and I know I'm not the only one that's thought this. Basically, the replicants were made, and they didn't originally have a soul, but now they do. So was it the experiences and everything that happened during the time that between when the humans were separated from bodies and the replicants were made? Was it that time, the 1349 years, that you basically they were able to craft the soul for their own body? I don't know. It was interesting. I guess I don't know. These man-made people were basically able to make their own, able to basically grow a soul or something like that. I don't know, I like that. I thought it was an interesting concept. One I've seen before, of course, but it's still a real interesting concept to throw in there. But yeah, then we get to the fights. We fight the big giant boar, and then the masked men show up, and they make their defiant last stand against the boar, which was very cool, really awesome, and kind of sad. And then, of course, Emil sacrifices his life, which at the time you think he sacrifices his life, which he sacrifices his body at least. And we get to the final fight, and basically it's the Shadow Lord and it's us, and we're going to fight each other. We fight for a while, and then our daughter wakes up and goes to the father, except it's not us. And when that happened, everything clicked into place. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I know what's going on completely now. The very first scene in the game where the father and the daughter are there, that is the Shadow Lord and the daughter. And I was like, okay, I get it. I understand what's going on now. So we kill them, and everything happens, and the daughter chooses to leave, so that this gets a little confusing to explain. The daughter chooses to leave, and shoot, what's the kid's name? Jovan, Yuli. We'll call her Yuli because I can't remember her fucking name. Yuli decides to stay. Or, sorry, Yuli is released because the original daughter leaves. And we're able to be reunited. And the original Shadow Lord and his daughter are able to reunite. So it's a very bittersweet ending. I thought it did well, though. I enjoyed the ending quite a bit there. Vice gave everything he had. Kaine was doing everything she could to help his daughter. And then, of course, you're on a blood rage rampage because by this point, you just don't give a shit anymore. All in all, I really enjoyed the ending. I thought it was done pretty well. And then I played the B game. Oh, man. The B story, basically you go through it, and it's the same game, except at the very beginning you get a lot of context for Kaine. A lot of her development is there, a lot of her story is there. We come to learn that she has a shade in her, which we knew she had a shade in her, but it's a shade named Tyrell, I believe is the name of it. And she's just barely keeping him back the entire time. And because she has a shade in them, we can hear all the shades that we fight that are the bosses, and we can hear what's going on with them. And some of it is really fucking depressing. The Wolves storyline was pretty depressing. But probably the most one I can think that is the most depressing is the kid in the robot, in the robot area. That's probably one of the most, that's really fucking depressing, going through that and having to kill the kid. But yeah, so I liked it though because you got a lot more story, you got a lot more context of what was going on, and it highlighted just how there's two sides to any story out there. It highlighted it, and I like that fact. And so I beat that game. I beat that part of the game, and then you get the full ending, basically going back to the very first scene in the game, and it expanded upon it. And I thought the ending was done pretty well. And so I finished that one, and that one took me roughly about I think about 5, maybe 6 hours to go through, and some of that was just me just fucking around in areas. Whereas my first playthrough, I think it took me about 30 hours. But I immediately played the B right afterwards. So I'd already put 35 hours into it, and I'd already beat the game twice. And I was sitting there, I was like, I can't do it. I do not have it in me to go through this game a third time right now. So I cheated. I just went ahead and looked it up on YouTube, the last 2 endings. And so, yeah, I do know what happens in the last 2 endings. Basically, the first one, you fight Kaine, and I didn't really like that one. And in the last ending, you get a choice to either save Kaine. You can save Kaine, but to do so means you'd have to give up your humanity, any idea of who you were, and you'll be erased completely from everybody's minds. It was a pretty damn depressing ending too. I don't know. There's very few games out there I find that hit me really that hard, and I can say clearly that Nier was one that did. The Last of Us hit me pretty hard. The Walking Dead hit me pretty hard. Final Fantasy VII, when it first came out, hit me pretty hard. Tales of Xillia 2, I know. Yeah, it's a game that hit me pretty hard. But Nier really, really, really hurt when you found out everything was going on. To the extent that I don't know if I can play that game again. I enjoyed my time with it. I enjoyed the story of it, but oh man, it was just such a depressing storyline when it gets to the end in some of the areas, or at least the B line, and or at least the C and D are. I don't know if I can take it. But overall, I think Nier is a good game, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. I liked all the ideals it had. I liked a lot of stuff it did. I admit freely the combat's not the greatest in the world, but I did enjoy the story. I liked the music. I liked the characters. So I am going to be playing Nier Automata when I get a chance. I already own the game. I just haven't played it more than about an hour into it. But yeah, so Nier is definitely a game I'm looking forward to go. Nier Automata is definitely a game I'm looking forward to going through. I'll also probably go back and try to play Drakengard, because Drakengard 3 specifically, I couldn't get into Drakengard, but Drakengard 3 is one I played a pretty good piece of and it just stopped. But yeah, Toko Yada, Nick's husband. I find he's a pretty good, decent writer. Very interesting concepts he brings up here. Very dark stories, but they're done well and they're told well. So that's all I ask. If you're going to tell a story, just tell it well. So yeah, good game. I like Nier. If you get a chance, I say try it. But anyway, this is Renegade Gamer. I've been rambling for a while. Y'all take it easy, and I'll catch you in the next episode.